I got a little something for you this morning.
What is this? What is this about to be?
Sarah McLachlan. Joe, a few weeks ago, I filled in for Jeremy, if you remember. I was in that seat.
Uh-huh.
And I went on what was now known as the Tyrell Shavers rant.
I see what's happening.
You laughed.
I see what's happening.
You belittled me and his supporters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a little something to say, if that's okay, Joe.
All right, go ahead.
Dear Tyrell, this week it's been a difficult one for those in the, quote, Shavers Hive, which I am, of course, the president, founder, and CEO of.
Self-proclaimed.
Self-proclaimed.
President.
I just wanted to say how proud we all are of you. The guts, the grit, the glory you showed playing 22 snaps. 22 on a torn ACL. Some of us here in this very room, they questioned whether you could separate regularly. Some of these very same people wondered if all you do is block. But not me, Tyrell. I watched you undress that Jaguars corner in the first quarter of that game last week. I watched you absolutely moss that Eagles defender just 2 weeks before that. I've always known in my heart of hearts. It won't feel right going to Denver without your pancake blocks and vertical separation, but we know you'll be with us in spirit. As Glenn Fry from the Eagles once famously said, we may lose, we may win, but we will never be here again. Rest now, brother. Curtis Samuel, Mecole Hardman, they have the watch. We'll see you on Chippewa.
Wow. I guess am I applauding for this? Am I applauding that? I guess I am.
Yeah, so hard day for me as the Tyrell Shavers truther of the station.
You know, you really made it sound like you went for like 100 yards last week.
I know. He did have one catch.
Yeah.
But
one catch. It was one catch. He was really willing to, really drag that line out about the one catch because it was the only catch.
It was. There would have been more, I fear, if he was able to, plant off of the knee.
Run, horizontally a little bit.
In reality, though, what a story.
The fact he played on a torn
insane.
ACL in the second half is incredible.
It's insane. And today, the Bills are going to go into this game with I don't want to say, I want to stop short of saying a dramatically different look at receiver, but although it will be, I think, semi-dramatic because I think right now Keon Coleman went from being the fifth wide receiver in this group to probably the third.
Yep.
And we're going to see Curtis Samuel for the first time since...
Oh, man. When's the last time he played a football game? When's the last time you can remember him making a catch? It happened this year at some point, didn't it? I don't know if he cracked 100 yards.
It would have probably been like a screen pass or like a 1 yard out.
Yeah, I don't remember him making a pass or making a catch. I'm sure it happened. Their receiving core, the thing that is concerning, you made fun of the blocking part of it a little bit, but that's the stuff that they're going to have to replace today.
Yep.
The dirty work that Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers do, which is being your main blockers in the screen game, which we know Joe Brady loves to spam as much as he can. Who's going to take that role on? Because catching the ball, I had the numbers earlier in the week, that since Brandon Cooks joined the Bills, the top 6 pass catchers by target are Shakir, Knox, Kincaid, Johnson, Cook, and Cooks. All of them, we'll see about Johnson. Johnson's maybe going to play, maybe not going to play if I missed a report on him in the last couple of hours.
There is not an update. Okay. Obviously, they elevated Frank Gore Jr. from the practice squad. I'm not convinced, though, that means for sure he's out or there's a decision made.
But let's say Ty Johnson was active today and he played. You would have your top 6 target getters since Cooks joined the team all available today. But that wouldn't be the point.
No,
it would be, how many plays are they crossing off on their playbook because Shavers and also Davis are not available to them?
I don't know about play volume, like the number of plays, but I think you have to, like that duo play where he comes in motion, sits off at the end of the line of scrimmage, whether it's the tight end or the tackle.
Right.
And that he is one of your primary blockers. You are putting Tyrell Shavers either head-to-head with a defensive end or an outside linebacker. There's not a ton of receivers in the league that you can deploy in a one-on-one blocking situation where you feel confident he's going to win that one-on-one block more times than not.
Right. And in his place is probably just by body type. You look at all the receivers that would be available to them is going to be Keon Coleman. And how much do they trust him to do all of those things that Shavers was doing. And again, that's where both of them getting injured is tough, because if Shavers was out and Davis was available to you today, you'd just be, okay, Gabe Davis is going to do all that. But now it's Coleman, which means he's playing all the time. And now it's, well, is he going to hold up in the block game? There have been some effort plays, I think, that have been in the negative that have been shown. I saw some clips from last week where he was jogging on play. So does he have that dog in him for today to do those types of things? And then on top of it,
they're going to need him to.
And on top of it, he's on the field a lot. So what are my? I mean, we could talk about what Denver will do to them, but man, I am wondering how much Coleman versus Riley Moss we're about to get today, which could be
an interesting.
Anything could happen.
You want to talk about variability on both sides of that matchup? Yeah, I mean, it could just be
Coleman could torch Moss, Moss could torch Coleman. We could get penalties every single time the ball goes over there.
If I could compare it to something,
I don't know,
that 15 to 20 second sequence the other night in the Montreal game where Colton Ellis is coming out of the net to play a puck and then tries to cover it 15 different times.
And everybody is standing up panicked.
And then there's a guy about to take a giant slap shot and you just the puck just moves. That's what I imagine that matchup. It's just going to be organized chaos, I think, for the most of this evening and this afternoon.
And then there's, the lesser degree who's doing all the Shaver stuff on special teams, who's running down punts, who's running down kicks. Is that not going to be a receiver?
I would guess it's probably not going to be a receiver.
It's probably going to be a defensive back or maybe a linebacker or whatever. Maybe Dorian Williams is doing more of that.
I will say there is a byproduct of this that isn't totally negative. Of having Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers out of your lineup and Curtis Samuel and Mecole Hardman in it.
Right.
This is probably the fastest group of receivers, foot speed-wise, they will have put on the field all season.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if it means anything, but in terms of speed, this is going to be the fastest, most athletic group that they will have in the active lineup all season long.
That's right. Do you trust that they'll attack vertically, though? Maybe it's different guys getting involved in the short passing game and you're getting more yak plays.
Right.
Maybe that's the value of it. Allen did take one shot to Hardman in the one game he played earlier in the year, and it should have been completed. Hardman dropped it.
But Brandon Cooks has largely been that guy.
Yeah, Cooks also dropped a couple and then ended up getting there too. No, right. But again, we can get right into the matchup if you want. If I'm Denver, I am matching Patrick Surtain against Brandon Cooks all day.
Yep.
And I'm just not letting him have a single catch.
Yep. Which might be why Mecole Hardman is your deep threat on the backside, post or something.
You're right. Maybe you see looks today where, it's the smallest receiver trio on the field all year, where there's a set where it's a tight end, a running back, you're in 11 personnel, and your three receivers are Shakir, Cooks, and Hardman.
Yeah.
And it's that's tiny, but they've been successful with small receiving cores in the past. When they had a receiving core of Diggs, John Brown, and Cole Beasley, none of them were taller than 6 feet.
Yeah.
And that was a great receiving core. So, that you can get away with that, but when you're a team that likes to run the ball a lot, then maybe you don't like it as much. And we know the Bills are a physical team that will load up, and they can still do that with 2-3 tight end sets, 12-13 personnel if they want Gilliam playing. But if they want to run out of 11 personnel today, that's where they're losing something big, I think, in Shavers and Davis.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, I think that there's going to have to be ways to get Brandon Cooks involved in this game plan, whether that's moving him into the slot and sort of insulating him with Keon Coleman on the boundary to try to force matchups with Surtain on Coleman so that you can free up Brandon Cooks to play against a Jahdae Barron or a Riley Moss, right? I think you've got to try to manufacture ways. And I think it also would be foolish for the Broncos to just say, we're going to have Patrick Surtain shadow Brandon Cooks. He's not a true number one receiver where you would want to do that. You can take Brandon Cooks out of the game, and I think the Bills, if that was their game plan, and it was just, whether he's in the slot, whether he's on the boundary, Patrick Surtain is glued to Brandon Cooks. I'd say, okay, we'll play 10 on 10.
But then the other thing you're doing, though, if you don't do that and don't have him shadow, then you're allowing the Bills to hide Keon Coleman on Patrick Surtain. And I wouldn't do that if I were the Broncos. To me, I would look at their receivers and say, I'm not going to do it against Shakir because Shakir doesn't really run real routes. He's a glorified running back. He's going to get passes at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, and that's kind of a waste, I feel like, of his skill set on the other side. So if I look at their receiving core and I think who's the most dangerous person running routes down the field, all the things you'll see in a route tree, then, like, I know he's not a number one receiver, but right now he's infinitely the most dangerous player in the Bills offense in that department, and that's Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
So I would do that, or we did hear Benjamin Albright earlier this week on with Chopin the Bulldog on our flagship WGR, and he made an interesting point that a lot of times this year, because Surtain's a bigger body, right? Like he's a corner, but he's a good sized corner. That on third downs, if they're playing an offense where the most dangerous player is not a slot, is a tight end, you will see him matched up on the tight end, and they've done it a lot this year. And when I heard that, I immediately thought, oh, so third downs he's covering Kincaid.
Yeah.
So Kincaid and Cooks. Like if I'm just trying to think of it from the other side. If I'm Denver, he's either covering Cooks or Kincaid. I think you are wasting his talent if he is covering Coleman. Anybody can cover Coleman. It's just whether you can, avoid taking a penalty and avoid getting mossed, basically.
No pun intended. Because Riley Moss is on the other side.
Okay, that's a good one. We should think of that later today if there's one of those plays.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Listen, I doubt
you're the first that's made that joke.
No. I'm batting 1,000 this morning.
Yeah.
803-0550, the number to call. It's time to get connected with our fans. It's powered by Verizon, the official 5G partner of the Buffalo Bills. Joe, you want to cue us up here on Jerry in Kenmore. Jerry, you're on Bills Game Day. Good morning to you.
Hey, just so I'm clear here, we're going to dress receivers and not blockers? I just want to be clear on this. These guys are receivers. They're not out there to block. They're out there to catch the ball.
Well, I mean,
innovative.
That's who they are, but they're probably going to be asked to block because there's nobody else to do it, even though it might not be their skill set.
I agree with you. The fastest. It's also the most unpredictable lineup we put out there. There's not film on this. We're not telecasting.
Would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not telecasting what we're doing. When Davis and Shavers are on the field, we're running the ball, and we broadcast that way too much. I want to see some misdirection today, whether it's a jet sweep or reverse. These are over-pursuing aggressive defenses that happened last week. When you have 6 guys at the ball, there's only 5 guys on the rest of the field. There were some times that Cook is running, to the left, that if you reversed it the other way with Hardman, or they're going a long way.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jerry. I do think there's probably some merit to finding a way to manufacture a touch or two for Mecole Hardman, if you trust him. And I think that goes a long way, the trust for him, because I think there's 2 different conversations around trust with this receiving group. One is with Keon Coleman, is like, can we trust you to be an adult and get to meetings on time? And I think largely that gets thrown out the window when he's on the field, right? I mean, that trust is, can we trust you to do your job? But I think for the most part, when he's been on the field, he's not been a detriment. He has not been someone that's running wrong routes and looks unprepared, right? So the thing that I question about Mecole Hardman and the trust we're talking about is, will they trust him to hold on to the football? Because, he had that great return, the kick return in that game, this first and only appearance in a Bills uniform when they signed him. And then that very, the next punt return, he catches and fumbles the punt. And I think in a game like this, I was watching Chris Long's podcast, and he was talking about how last week the Bills would, in that game, that punts should have been treated like turnovers, and that you'd have to do everything you possibly can not to punt the football to Jacksonville because of that offense. That this week is very different. That if you're Josh Allen, instead of forcing a throw, instead of trying to get one down the field, maybe just eat it, take the sack, and be okay with punting the football against this Denver offense, because there is almost a guarantee in this game that they are going to go through a long stretch, whether it's 2, 3, maybe 4 straight drives of incompetence. They're not going to move the football, mistakes. And all I hear all week is, listen, it's so easy for pundits, for the media, in the lead up to these games to say, and especially after these games, to say, why didn't Liam Cohen just run the football more? They're having tons of success running the football. Well, that's not who they've been all year. They've been throwing the football, especially with Parker Washington and the emergence of Jacoby Myers, and they have Brian Thomas Jr. down the field. It's so easy in hindsight to say, well, if they just ran the ball more, they would have won. And I think it's really easy to look at this Broncos team, a team, by the way, that doesn't run the ball particularly well, that really relies on their short pass game as an extension of their run game, to say, well, just do what you haven't done all season long. And I think that's what gets teams like the Ravens, a team a couple of years ago that ran the ball really well all year. They were the number 1 rush offense. They had Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson. Everybody knows the story. They scored 7 points against the Chiefs because Well, we've got to throw the football. That's the weakness of this Chiefs defense. Well, when you change who you are in the playoffs because of a specific matchup or game plan, I think that's what makes the experience. Now, Sean Payton's got the experience. I'm not expecting Sean Payton to make rookie head coach mistakes like Liam Cohen made last week. Right. But what I am here to sell you is I don't imagine that Sean Payton in his heart of hearts believes the best way he's going to beat the Bills is by turning around the ball and handing the ball to R.J. Harvey 30 times in a game.
And even on that commentary about last week, so the Jaguars had 30 pass attempts and 23 rush attempts. How much more did you want them to run the ball?
Right.
Like 5 more times?
Sure. Right. I don't know.
Does that more rush attempts really would have been the difference last week? I mean, I don't know. Like, sure, they ran the ball well, but this is why when Allen is having a good day, the pass game for you is going to be more valuable than the run game on the other side. And we've seen countless games like that so far this year. The Ravens lost in week 1. They ran the ball great that entire day. But guess what? Allen was on. So what happened? You lost. When they played the Dolphins in week 3, Miami ran for over 100 yards in that game.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
But Allen had a good day. They lost. You go to the Tampa game. Tampa ran the ball all over the Bills. But guess what? Allen's 9-10 yards per attempt are better than your 7 yards per attempt running the ball. It's simple. A good pass day is more valuable than a good run day. And in these Bills playoff games over the years, they've never really been beaten because a team was running the ball at will on them. The only one you could point to for that would be Cincinnati, and the Bills scored like 10 points in that football game.
And Allen didn't have his day.
Right. So if you get Allen to play well, and man, him in the playoffs, I mean, he's got a 6-game streak right now in the playoffs of not turning the ball over.
And that has to continue.
Best touchdown interception ratio in the playoffs ever. Like, if you trust... It's just a simple statement. If you trust Josh Allen to show up today, you should not be worried at all about the Bills' run defense and how much Denver's going to choose to run the ball, especially when they're not a very good team running the football. I brought up some stats earlier in the week that R.J. Harvey I think it's the 7 games this year where he's had more than 10 attempts, which a lot of those are when J.K. Dobbins went down. Dobbins was good. He averaged over 5 yards carry.
Dobbins was good, yes.
In the 7 games, Harvey's had double-digit carries. 1.9 an attempt, 3.1, 3.4, 4.4, 2.7, 2.7, and 4.1. It's not a dangerous team in that department at all.
Yeah. And so, again, I do think the same way I thought last week, them turning around, and I like Travis Etienne, I like 210, I think they're good there. And there's a couple drives there where they got 60 yards and 3 rushes, right?
Yep.
And, there's value to that. But I thought every time, and I said it to you, I thought every time that Liam Cohen decided to turn around and hand the ball off, that was a win for the Bills.
All right.
And I think that ended up being true for the most part. And listen, when it came down to it, one quarterback made more plays when it mattered. And not for nothing, Bo Nix has been at his best in the fourth quarter. I think what a lot of people... I look at their schedule this year, and I look at the teams they beat, and in the fourth quarter, am I supposed to be super impressed by them beating the Chiefs in Week 18 with... Right. I'm sorry, who was their quarterback again?
Chris Oladukin.
Okay.
Oladukin.
And against a defense that probably did not care?
I've decided to never actually learn how to pronounce his last name.
I don't think you should.
Yeah.
So... like the Jets game, this is a Denver team that was, I think, the beneficiary of a bad division and the beneficiary of games that I don't want to use the term playing with their food because that to me is a good offense that's bored, that waits until clutch time to make plays. I don't think that's this offense. I think this offense is largely very mediocre. And I liked... and I said to you last week, I said, I'm actually quietly more confident in this Bills defense than I am the offense. And I feel the same this week about the confidence that I have in this Bills defense. Sean McDermott, Bobby Babich, and Ryan Nielsen are on one. And
they are.
Everybody can give Sean McDermott credit. And as you know, for the last month, 2 months, or whatever it's been, I have been all aboard the Sean McDermott defender train. And I think he deserves a ton of praise. But I don't think it should go at the expense of not giving praise to a Bobby Babich and Ryan Nielsen. And I think Ryan Nielsen... quietly has been a huge influence in the shift of philosophy defensively, what we're seeing both at the line of scrimmage, what you're seeing in the defensive backfield. Now, that's Sean McDermott. The disguises, what they're doing. They're not going to run man coverage. Would they run man one play in this game?
They might. I saw Dan Orlovsky have that same tweet. Like, you might see the Bills run zone on every play.
And why wouldn't they? This is a Broncos offense that wants to play against man coverage. That's where Bo Nix thrives.
He loves that when he sees man coverage, he's throwing it up to Cortland Sutton.
Yep.
And he loves that matchup. The Bills are number 1 in the NFL in disguise coverages.
Yes.
You know that?
Yes.
That is such an opposite of where they used to live.
Correct.
And last week, I think it's how they beat Lawrence. They confused him all day. So are they not going to do the same thing to Bo Nix today? The way the secondary is playing, maybe Ed Oliver is able to play and give you a few more pass rushes than you did last week. Last year when they played Denver, they spied Bo Nix.
Yep.
And Milano was the guy doing that. He would fire every time he'd exit the pocket, and they didn't score after their first drive.
Right.
Not a single point after their first drive of the game. I'm with you. Like, I would not tell you I would sign up for this, but I could see the Bills winning a game today where they scored like 17 points.
I could also.
That is within the range of outcomes to me. Again, I would not sign up for 17 points, but I think you could win a game like that. Denver, they remind me of, remember Minnesota a couple of years ago when they had the 1 seed and they won like an NFL record number of 1-score games.
That was
and they
the
never
season
looked impressive.
that was the Jefferson catch year.
That was the Jefferson catch year, right? And they went out immediately in the postseason.
Yeah.
They lost to Daniel Jones and the Giants.
Yep.
Like, this Broncos team kind of reminds me of that. They're worse on offense, though, even than that Vikings team was. I mean, at some point, you got to look at all these close wins they had against the worst teams in the NFL and say, you know what? 8-point win against Tennessee, a 2-point win against the Jets.
That's the one that sticks out to me.
Somehow you only beat the Jets by 2 when you allowed 82 yards of offense.
That's crazy.
You beat the Giants by 1. You beat the Raiders by 3, and then the Raiders by 7. You beat the Commanders with Mariota in overtime by 1. And you beat, as you mentioned, the Chiefs with their third-string quarterback by 7. Even the Charger game in Week 18 with Trey Lance in, like, that game didn't get really to be a comfortable win for them until the fourth quarter.
That was an important win for them.
Right.
That was for them to secure the 1 seed.
Like, game after game after game this year against bad opponents, they've looked unimpressive. Now, should you throw that out because the Bills are not a bad team? And, like, that's kind of the playing down to your opponent type of idea.
Potentially.
Like, what have they done against some of the good teams they've played? They did beat a healthy Kansas City early in the year by a field goal. They beat the Packers by 8, but the Packers weren't healthy.
Yep.
And other than that, they lost to the Colts and the Chargers early in the year.
What was the Jaguars game score?
Jaguars, they got smoked at home by 34-20. And that game could have been way uglier than that.
Yes, it could have.
So, yeah, like, I don't want to go all in on resume talk, but you piece it all together. They're not good at running the ball. I'm not that impressed by the quarterback. The Bills' defense is on one right now. Allen's coming off a great game and always elevates in the playoffs. Like,
I also think their defensive strengths are either the Bills' strengths offensively or they're irrelevant to the Bills' success on offense.
I'm confident. I'm
confident,
so
not
much
cocky.
more confident than I was last week.
I agree with. I am confident, but I'm not. I do. And we could talk more about this on the other side. There, to me, a level of respect for this Denver team because I think they're a well-coached team. I do think that Bo Nix is more, I think, closer to the quarterback he was last year than some sort of ascending quarterback. I think he's perfect for Sean Payton's offense.
Do you know what explains how confident we are? Because last week when we were previewing the Jaguars, it was all about, like, okay, these guys on the defense, and this is what their run defense has been doing, and the receiver trio, and the difference.
Is Sean McDermott going to get fired next week?
Jacoby Myers versus, like, it was a lot of matchup stuff. And this week we got multiple calls about the elevation.
Yeah.
That's like to find something you might be worried about, we got to elevation. That should tell you that you should be confident in this game.
Yeah, we're having sea-level conversations. So
Allen, by the way, played in the highest stadium in the league, or
in the country,
college
right?
football plus NFL.
Yeah.
Allen playing at Wyoming was 2,000 feet higher than Denver.
And Broncos fans really want you to know that you can't just come back and it be the same. They're really leaning into the elevation.
What do you mean?
Piece to this.
Oh, the elevation.
Yeah, because he hasn't been there in a few years and played there.
See.
That you don't just come back and it's just
it's not like riding a bike.
Apparently not.
Elevation.
Correct. Who would have thought?
Are we sure about that though? We tested it.
I don't know. I've been to Denver and I did not notice.
I've been to Flagstaff, which I learned this week was the highest elevation city in the U.S., and I've been there and I didn't notice it at all.
Yeah,
but I didn't do any hiking or anything.
Yes, we were not playing NFL football.
No, I was sitting in a brewery. You don't get as tired.
One could argue that takes as much athleticism as playing in the NFL.